Hello everyone. Greetings wherever you are in the world. I don't know what time it is here, to be quite honest. I think it's afternoon. Just feel very, very called to share data, to share knowledge today, because there's many things we don't talk about on this ascension path, isn't there? And the more we go on the path, the more we empower ourselves, the more I think, why don't we talk about them? There's so much. So, I can see we've got some people here already. Hello, Willow. God bless you. Thea, hello, sweetheart. Hello. Hello, everybody, wherever you are. Linda, hello, gorgeous. Bless you. Hello, Barry and Zara. So, I'm going to take my time with this one. So, if you're in a rush, maybe watch later. Because it's important, I feel, to try and support in a way that does support. And this one is quite deep. If it triggers anybody, please accept my apologies now. I have no desire to trigger any living creature on this planet and beyond. But it may trigger. It's certainly something I've been thinking about myself on my path in my human. And I realised that there's so much we don't talk about. We talk about the energies, ascension, methods, how things work. But the whole point of this ascension is that we do it in the human form. So we're going to talk about human today. We're going to talk about the things that people experience privately in their own minds. And we don't talk about them. We don't share it. We just go through it on our own privately. So that's why I'm doing it, to try and help support, because I know people will resonate and people won't. And that's okay. It doesn't have any effect on me whether people do or don't, because I'm on the path anyway. So we're all doing it. We're all doing it our way. So I just like to go quiet for a moment, so that hopefully you can hear the sounds that are all around me here. I know there's probably wind coming through the mic, but I'd like to try and ask you to ignore the wind sound and just listen to nature, just for a moment with me. There's a young lady who's actually called Lady that wants to say hello to you. She's actually listening with us. Can you? This is so spot on. Do you know what? I couldn't have planned this better. I didn't plan it, obviously. I'm going to show you a lady and a little boy that are listening live with us. Hello, lady. Hello. Hello, Red. Hello, I can see you. Yeah. Did you get that? Did you get the two? Yeah, you got that. Brilliant. Because the animals have been teaching me today, and hello sweetheart, they contribute into this, obviously. I love it how this works. So yeah, when we went quiet, you may not have picked it up, but we were hearing the birds, the sound of the birds, the sound of the crickets. I actually heard a tail swishing, which is why I then looked over and saw Lady there, because they were down the other end of the field when I came and sat down. Lady is the black cow, by the way. She's a year old, and the little one was born in June. He's called Red. So anyway, there we go. Yes, you. I heard a tail swishing of an animal, and I didn't know what it was till I looked. I could hear the wind. I could hear the grasses moving to and fro. Now the thing is, if I had wanted to, I could have heard cars, and now and again there's a helicopter comes over. I could have heard the mechanical noises that are all around this farm. If I tune in now, I can hear a car. But I didn't hear any of the mechanical noises when I went quiet. I just heard Gaia. I just heard the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom. So what I'm trying to say is that everything carries vibration. And it's up to us individually to choose what to tune into. It's down to individuals to choose. When I hear a helicopter flying overhead here, it actually agitates my energy in my head. It agitates me. It's a mechanical, loud sound. So that helicopter, as a mechanical piece of machinery, carries vibration. The sound of the helicopter carries vibration. The sound of Lady's tail swishing carries vibration. The grasses, the birds, everything carries a vibration. And it's for us. Oh wow, there's 2 dragonflies. Maybe you can see. There we go, there's a dragonfly. Okay, sorry. Everything, including that dragonfly, carries vibration. It's up to us to decide what we tune into. But what we can do more is go within and ask ourselves in quiet moments, why do I feel a certain way when I hear this sound? Why do I feel a certain way when I hear that sound? So it's not just about working out what sounds we like, it's also about going deeper within ourselves and asking ourselves, well, why does that bring me joy? Why does that elate me? Why did that sound or that vibration impact me so much? And we can take it to the other end of the energetic scale and think, well, why did that helicopter or that plane or that car or that tractor irritate the energy in my head? And go deeper, because if we do go deeper and ask ourselves these questions, why? Red is still paying attention. I don't know who else is, but he is. Yes, you fella. He's so sweet, He's such a sweet personality. Anyway, if we ask ourselves why, then we can learn about ourselves. We can learn about our truth, our unique truth. And we can grow from that. Because if there are things that carry vibrations that agitate us, if we ask ourselves why, we can grow from that space. I'm gonna take it further, because just as everything carries a vibration that we say, like this, the birds, you can hear the birds and the wings of the birds, the sounds, the leaves, all of that carries vibration, but so do human beings. We all carry a vibration. Whenever we make a sound, it carries vibration. We send vibration out into everything. Everything. There's no distance. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because I observed myself at the weekend, and I noticed that my vibration was really high, and then I talked to a lot of people. After speaking to someone, my vibration within me went right down. The thoughts I was having stopped. I had new thoughts. And I can honestly say that those thoughts went high vibration. So it really made me think about it for 3 days now. 3 days I've been on the same subject in my head, because I want to clear that. I want to be able to hold my vibration at the vibration that I want, and not be as reactive in the linear mind to what is outside me. Because what is outside all of us is just in our dream for us to learn and grow from. The thing with nature, because nature is such a beautiful teacher to every single person on the planet. Everybody can learn from Gaia, whether they're awake or asleep. If they just quieten their mind down and listen and see, and if they quieten their mind down even more to no thought, and we'll go on to this later, to no thought, they will be able to read the language of Gaia. So that's a higher dimensional plane. It's a language that goes on all the time, never stops. And if people quieten their own thoughts down, they can see, they can hear, they can pick up on the whole language that's going on with Gaia. But it is a case that with the animals and with the plants, they actually follow within their DNA patterning. They actually follow the cycle of the sun. So the sun rises every day and it sets in the evening. And plants and animals follow the cycle completely. So I was doing my voluntary work earlier today, and I was next to the pigs. And they came over, had a little chat, and then they went about their way. And then they all settled down together and slept about, 1 o'clock in the afternoon here. And it really made me see that the plants similarly with the plants, the chickens do that. They all get up, they all go foraging for food, the chickens. They all have a chat. Then they wash themselves, clean themselves down, dust baths, etc. And then they have a sleep in the afternoon, they have a rest, they go quiet. And then they'll get up early evening, before the sunset. The animals, there'll be a flurry of activity with all of the animal kingdom a few hours before sunset, because they need their food. and then they'll get their water just before the sun goes down. This just happens within the whole of the animal kingdom, generally speaking. And the same with the plants. The plants would want to drink their water, and they'll absorb the water and do the work within the plant itself before up to midday, and a couple of hours after midday when the sun's at its optimum position in the sky, and then a couple of hours after that, the plant will, after 2 hours after that, the plant will then start to slow down, and it'll start to not go to sleep, but it starts to slow down its chemical processes within the plant. And then in the evening, you know, they all go quiet, and the systems slow down. Now there's a point to this. I'm not giving a lesson. I've never given a lesson. I'm just talking. But there's a point to this, is that the human beings don't follow that cycle. Their body wants to follow the cycle, but it doesn't follow the cycle because human beings manipulate time. They manipulate their existence so they don't follow the cycle of the sun. But we all get affected by the sun, always. And how this plays out in our world is that, you know, especially now with this ascension, is our bodies are changing and changing all the time. Our system is very, you know, we can't predict our system or our bodies anymore from one day to the next. There's no prediction there. We can say for sure that the sun affects us completely, and that there is a cycle going on in the background, but the incoming waves that we're receiving is completely influencing the natural cycle that human beings have, completely. So what it can mean is that somebody wants to sleep in the daytime and somebody wants to chat. What do you do? What do you do if one person's tired and the other wants to chat? Eating is affected too. Some days you want to eat, some days you don't want to eat. It's all about honouring you and your body and what's changing in your consciousness and your awareness and your life and your existence. It's about you honouring and paying attention to you. And we're here to help and support others. Of course we are. We'll never stop. I mean, it's innate within us to help somebody, anybody. It's innate. It's a human thing to want to help. Of course it is. You know, if a lady fell down in the street, nobody's going to leave her on the floor. We're going to help pick her up and see if she's okay. So it's not that we're not going to stop helping people. We're here to, it's just a normal human thing to want to help people. But we do and will start responding more and more to our bodies and our own ascension path, our own unique frequency. Because no frequency is alike. Every single frequency is different. Just as we can pay attention to the frequencies of nature and the sounds of the bird, the wind, or the helicopter. When people speak, they carry frequency. So we can pay attention to the frequency that's being emitted by the person. So a person could actually say anything. But whatever they say will carry a frequency. So somebody could say, And I'm going to shout, so if you've got earphones in, maybe just take them out a little bit. Somebody could say, I love you. And somebody could say, oh, I love you. And somebody could say, I love you. Wow, I hate that. Was Now, 3 words, the same words, 3 completely different frequencies. And the thing with frequencies is people will try and mask their frequency as well. So people over centuries upon centuries have learnt to put a mask over their frequency, hide their frequency. And so I'm going to put on now the same words, I love you, and I'm going to pretend I mean it, and I'm going to not mean it, if that makes sense. So I'm going to put on a mask and just say, I love you. Well, hopefully I put on a mask there. It's all about discerning energies and how you feel when you interact with people. Because after our birth, we had to learn to navigate the system. We had to learn to operate, how to survive as a human being. And what's happened after our birth is we've been manipulated and controlled. We've been given false belief systems. And we ended up with masks on our face. So my particular way of surviving being human was to allow everybody to say exactly what they wanted to me. That was my way of surviving. Because if I allowed them to say whatever they wanted to me, by being so allowing and so accommodating, I didn't receive as much negative emotions from them as much. That was my particular way of surviving being human, and everybody. So that was my false way of surviving human to this point. Now everybody has developed masks of some sort to survive being in this particular program. And it's those masks that have to come off. It all has to come off. So when you're interacting with people, it may well be that they still have a mask on. But if you just listen, not to the words, but just listen, you'll be able to feel the frequency of that person. You'll feel it, just as you can feel the frequency of a helicopter, just as you can feel the frequency of the grass is just wafting and blowing. It's not about the words people say, it's about their frequency. So going back to my weekend, I was in a high frequency, had a conversation, got embroiled in the conversation, and then my frequency just went down like that. What we're going to be mastering is pulling away from conversations that don't serve us. And that's what each person on the path will master. They'll master it from a place of love, not from a place of ego, not from a place of, oh, well, bugger you, I don't want to have a chat with you because this, that and the other. That's just storyline and ego. It's about coming away from that conversation and going within yourself and seeing, how did that serve me? How did that serve the whole? Did it serve the whole? what am I getting from this relationship? Is this relationship elating my frequency or adding to my frequency, in which case it's adding to the whole collective frequency? Or is this relationship and this conversation lowering my frequency and therefore lowering and contributing to lowering the frequency of the whole? So it's not about what people say, it's not about the content of their conversations, it's about the frequency. And then what it's truly about is coming into our own awareness of our own frequency, and how so far we may be allowing the outside of us to influence the inside of us, and that's what's going to flip round one by one. And I know people, are at different stages of this as well, by the way. I know people don't have a problem with this, and some people do have a problem with it, but it is about it flipping round so that we are so aware of our own frequency and we are so within ourselves that we're not affected by the outside. Now, that doesn't mean to say that we have to listen to every single conversation that presents to us either. It's about having the love in your heart to realize that the conversations aren't serving the highest good, and then stopping those conversations. So it's us evolving into our power, and it's not a power of ego, it's a power of discernment in knowing what serves the highest good for the whole and what is not serving the highest good for the whole. It's a big growth stage, this, for September for people. It truly is not about the other people, but it is about observing the outside and then making choices, but staying as your vibration, trying to keep and sustain your vibration high. We're always doing this, we're always fluctuating, just as the animals and the plant life fluctuates in its vibration through the day. Our vibration will also fluctuate through the day. That's a given, because it's influenced by our sun. But it is about finding our own unique ways of saying no to subject matters or conversations that aren't adding to this ascension, because everything is frequency. With the human beings, there's a time when we speak, and then there's a time when we listen, and then there's a time when we don't speak and we don't listen, we're quiet. And I just want to explore that, because it's this happens every day to people all over the world, and we just don't talk about it. So let's talk about it. There's an ebb and flow. It started at the very beginning. So there's the out breath of source, and then there's the in breath of source. There's the blue and there's the red. There's the electric and then there's the magnetic. There's the sunrise and the sunset. Every single thing has an in and an out. we can call it the in-breath and the out-breath, just for want of a better label. There's many things we can call it, but it's in and out. So the waves that go to the shoreline, to the sand, the waves come in to the shoreline, and then the waves go back out again, in and out. That is the natural flow of the whole of creation. It's a constant in and out. And when we allow that flow, then we're in balance. When we allow the out and then the in, we find balance. So again, going back to relationships, friendships, partnerships, any ships, look for the balance. Because when we speak, we're giving out. That's speaking. And when we listen to what the other is saying, then we're receiving in. So any type of relationship that's in balance with the whole, there is a giving out, a speaking, and then there is a receiving in, which is a listening. And that is the balanced relationship of any type of relationship. There's a natural balance to everything. If you're a good listener, people will radiate to you because you listen. But from a human perspective, what that does is it makes you become the listener. If you're completely accepting that you are good at listening, what about what you have to say? Doesn't that count? If you are a good listener. So what can happen if you are good at listening to others is that's all you ever do, is you're just listening to other people because they know you will listen. But what about you and your needs? There's an ebb and a flow. What about you and what you have to say? Who's listening to that? Because a good relationship, whether it's friendship, family, partnership, marriage, a good relationship will allow both. That is the ease of relationship, is that you speak and you listen, and the other person speaks to you, and then they listen to you. That's the beauty, and that's the ease of flow. It's just the equal balance, the ebb and the flow. That's what's very imbalanced, and it's worth paying attention to, because you can easily have friendships, relationships, any type of relationship where it's not balanced, and so one person tends to do all the speaking and one person tends to do all the listening. It doesn't meet the needs of either, because there's the in-breath and the out-breath in everyone. When people do listen, we can observe that as well. How many times have you gone to say something to someone, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you felt you needed to say something, that you felt it was important to you, and you've gone to start talking about it, and as soon as you've got a few words out, you're interrupted. talked over? How many of you have gone through that, where you've really wanted to say something and you just immediately get talked over? And what does that do to you when you're talked over? It can make you feel worthless. It can make you feel that what you're thinking and your contribution doesn't count. From the other side, that person that talks over you is far more interested in what they're thinking and what they want to say than what you are wanting to say to them. And that's where natural balance works, because the balance in relationship will naturally allow a person to speak and naturally allow a person to listen. That's natural balance. There's so many subtleties to being human, so many. And the reason I'm bringing these things up, there is a big reason behind this, by the way. The reason I'm bringing this up today is because of where we are on the ascension path. We're here to clear the human. If we could do this at a galactic level or a non-solid level, at a light level, we wouldn't actually be here. There'd be no point in the play or the game or the drama. It's all about doing it from human, and because we're doing it from this solid form, it is almost like it is possible, obviously, because we've actually already done it, but the enormity of us doing it from the physical human form ricochets out. It affects every single creation on the planet and off the planet, every creation that even exists. Everything that first came from source out, it affects. And so how do we do this? By clearing the human. If we could do this through gifts, through any other forms of us, because we are everything, but if we could do this via our Lyrian aspect or our Syrian aspect, or any other type of form you can think of, we wouldn't be here in the human form. We're here for a reason in this physical humanness, to transcend the humanness, to clear the humanness. And we do that by becoming completely neutral. Neutrality, the ebb and the flow. That's neutrality. And there's so many things that happen to people in their daily lives, their interactions with people, and we just don't talk about them. But a pure, balanced frequency relationship will be the ebb and the flow. And look, I'm actually doing the infinity symbol actually as I'm doing ebb and flow. It's natural. A relationship, whether it could be with your mother, it could be with your child. I'm not talking about particular relationships, but a natural ebb and flow will feel easy, because each are allowing the other. It's all about allowing the other, and we can't allow the other unless we clear ourselves, because up to that point, then, it's very insular. It's all about us and, what we want to say and what we want to think. And, going back to conversations that you have with people where they just interrupt you, if there's something that you're wanting to say to a person that you feel is important, and they just boom, straight in, interrupt you, then what I do now is I don't carry on my thought about that conversation. I don't try and say what it was I was wanting to say. I don't bother anymore. I used to, but I don't anymore, because now I realise that if they were supposed to hear that, they would hear that. So that info or that conversation wasn't for them in that moment. Because sometimes we can talk about things with good intention, but actually it's not for that other person in that moment. And so things come in, like the interruption, for instance, or the phone goes, and so you stop having that conversation with the person in the room or whatever. But when we are in contact or connection with other people, this is so beautiful, is that the purity of that connection is in actually listening to the person when they're speaking. Because part of the human program, because the brain is so active within all of us, is that we can be listening to a person speaking, but just having our own thoughts going on inside us. That's not listening. That's not listening. What you're listening to, or what I would be listening to, is my own brain talking. So the person is talking, and we're kind of doing two things at once. We're listening to them on one hand, but we're way busy thinking at the same time as they're talking, and that isn't listening. Listening is when you devote your energy and your attention to the other. You're honouring them. You're honouring the vibration that comes out of their mouth and their body. You're giving them your space, your time, your love, your attention. That's listening. It's a beautiful thing that we can all do. And then when they finish speaking, you can speak. And maybe they'll do the same. Maybe they won't. But it's not about expecting them to. It's about us doing it. It's not about us expecting anything of anyone to be a certain way, or to listen, or to be understanding, or to have 3 hours to spare in each day so that you can talk on the phone. It's not about us expecting of anyone. It's about us being aware how we act inside. Do we actually listen? Do we give that person our unconditional attention in that moment? Or are we too busy yakking in our own brain about whatever? It could be about anything. There's an art to listening, whether a person is asleep or awake. We can all do it. We can all give from that purity and give that space. But it's also about knowing when to how can I put it? How to stop giving in that moment. So if you're tired, then it's about mastering how you interact with people in your world, mastering your own energy and your own power, and knowing and observing and being in your awareness as much as you possibly can each day, so that you don't dip down. In other words, on that outside, people may want to grab you 24 hours a day. Does that serve the whole? Does that serve you if you're absolutely exhausted and you haven't eaten? So, again, I'm not preaching here, I'm learning this too. It's about us finding ways from our heart, from love, and emitting an energy through our words out that says, look, I need to stop now, or I've got things to do, I need to go and do this, or I need to go and collect my children, or whatever it is. But we mustn't feel that, or we don't have to feel, should I say, that we have to be giving our attention to everybody 24 hours a day. We don't. That's their needs, not ours. It's about understanding our own needs every day, because every day our needs will be different. So I think I've run out of things to say. I kind of want to say, really, I think it's about honouring yourself. The fact that what you have to say is of equal, complete, equal importance as what you are choosing to listen to. To have your voice, you don't have to be only the listener. You, as balance, will want to express out through your words, through your sound. And it is all about how we listen to another. Are we actually paying attention to them? Or are we too focused on the linear, the linear human, the brain that goes round and round and round, chatting away inside? And it is about also turning off from all of that. So we can speak, we can listen, and we can have quiet time. But in that quiet time, when we're not speaking with others and we're not listening to others, and we're in our own space and our own quiet time, in that quiet time, there's things going on, because you'll either be having thoughts in your own brain in your quiet time, or you'll be asleep, in which case, we go into sleep mode. So, we're not, our brain isn't going like that in the linear way, it's going like that in a higher way. But then there's this other point. So we've got in our quiet time, just to go back on that, in our quiet time when we're being quiet and not speaking or listening, there's 3 things can happen. 3. We can be chatting to ourselves in here, in our thoughts. We can be sleeping, in which case we're in a higher mode of consciousness, so not actually the linear brain. But there's a 3rd place we can be. And this is the place to be now. This is September. It's in no thought while you're awake. So while you're out and about in your day, at any moment you choose, any moment, you can drop into no thought. You can stop the linear mind from doing this. And if you just do that and practice it every day, just for a tiny bit of time, but every day, drop into no thought. After a while, you're going to pick up on the language that's going around, that's always been here on Gaia. You'll pick up on the language of Gaia, you'll pick up on the sights within the skies. If you drop your thoughts, your linear thoughts, or if I drop my own thoughts as a human being, as Mandy, I hear telepathically. So I actually drop in on people's conversations. And that's what we can all do if we just quieten our minds and just make it a little practice every day. You can be out and about and just go into no thought. How many of you, when you're walking along in the countryside, there's people have said this to me. They've said, when I go for a walk, Mandy, I like to go on my own in the woods or the forest. I like to go on my own because if I go with somebody, I miss everything. And people say that, and it's because we're giving it this all the time, It's, if we're talking, we miss all the detail of nature. If you're listening to the radio and listening to perhaps a show, as you're driving along, you miss the countryside, and there's so much that we miss because of this, because of the linear mind that we're coming out of it. That's ultimately what we're doing. At our own rate, we're coming out of it. So it is now that we practice it. We practice coming out of it. Just when you go for a walk in the woods, if you go on your own, you'll see so much more than if you've got someone stood next to you chatting, and then you're responding back by chatting back to them. So every day we can start to become the master of our own thoughts. Whether it is mastering the fact that our thoughts have dipped because we've allowed them to dip. It's not that other people are responsible for dipping our thoughts. No, it's us. It's us that's responsible for our thoughts. And as soon as our thoughts change, if they go into lower thoughts, then our frequency will go lower. It just goes hand in hand. But it's us that do the thinking. So we can become the master of our own thoughts by always being aware of our thoughts, watching our thoughts, and then watching our own interactions with people, and observing ourselves and what we are allowing, knowing that we don't have to allow everything. It's whatever serves the highest good, the highest vibration. That's what we're allowing. We can continue to allow lower vibrations go on within us. Of course we can. We've got that choice too. But we'll just cycle. So it's a condensed spiral if we do that. And what we're doing is spiraling up. And then daily we can just take a moment and go quiet. Decide how you're going to spend your day. Choose the highest actions for you. What brings you joy? It may serve you to be with somebody for the day and go for a day out. Maybe it doesn't serve you to go for a day out. Maybe you don't want to. Are you doing it because you want to or because you feel you have to? See, 5D and above honours everything. It honours everybody's choice. Because if everybody chooses their highest choice for them, all of that frequency is the highest frequency, which contributes to the whole collective frequency. And so that's why the individual choice is always honoured. If a person wants to do this, if a person doesn't want to do this, it's the highest choice is always honoured, and only you know your highest choice. It's not for another to say they don't know your highest choice. You do. Trust you. And just always be aware of the energies within you. Are they going down? Why are they going down? Are they going up? Why are they going up? Become the observer of yourself, the observer of your thoughts, because it is always about us. It's not actually about the outside, but it is about making choices ourselves, making the highest choices for our path and honouring that. It's where we're headed. It's how it works. That is the higher living that we're growing into. So I probably kept you long enough. I hope this has helped somehow. I've no idea. It's a little bit raw in the sense that we're talking about stuff that we don't talk about. We go through it all. Everybody does. Doesn't matter if they're awake or asleep. We all go through it. And that's why I've done this, in case it helps you in some way in the daily living. And to always be aware of your own energy. And if you notice, I feel irritable now, for instance, ask yourself, why do I feel irritable now? What's caused that irritation? Just go within and keep asking, and then make a choice. Then make a choice. It's just one choice after the other. You don't have to commit to anything, not one thing. It's just one choice at a time. So, God bless you all, and look after you. God bless. Bye-bye.